Hello, I'm Evan Koslof. You're watching a special report on Spectrum News. It is 6:50 on the dot in the nation's capital, where President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are holding a news conference right now. Let's listen in. The big question is how exactly we're going to find our way out of this. There's been some discussion of perhaps moderate members from the Democrat and Republican side of the aisle coming together. One of the central questions here is what to do with Crimea. This key peninsula in southern Ukraine was annexed by Russia back in 2014. The scale of this document release is massive, and it's going to take some time to figure out exactly what's included. The bill gives the DOJ just 30 days to release all files related to the investigation, prosecution, detention, and ultimately the death of Jeffrey Epstein. For now, Sharon, just the voting continues here on Capitol Hill. By my count, there have now been 11 votes in the Senate on these stopgap measures. All of them have failed, some lawmakers likening this to Groundhog Day. And with the two sides still seemingly far apart, President Donald Trump is calling on his party to blow up the filibuster. It's been a show of force here in Washington, D.C., with military vehicles like this one now being parked in front of national landmarks as federal agents have flooded into this city. The need among federal workers is immense. At this Maryland food bank in the suburbs of D.C., there was a line wrapped around the building when it opened up. Right now, it's these four regions right here in East Ukraine where there's partial or full control by Russia. No doubt you've seen the headlines. President Donald Trump says that he wants to end birthright citizenship here in the U.S. But can he do it? Long before it arrives on your plate, fruits and vegetables start off on farms like this one in northern Michigan. There's a lot of posturing, but are there actual negotiations happening? Do you think there's any avenue for compromise right now? Obviously, Democrats are the minority. What are your thoughts on this characterization of the shooting coming out of the White House?
I have to tell you, Evan, that day was so devastating.
Why stop at just scheduling it down? How realistic is a two-state solution? How do you expect to do all these big goals when you've got this tiny little margin here?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And I think that's job number one for him. He needs to introduce himself. So we're going to hear a lot about his bio. I think he's going to talk about his time as a coach.
It was a dominant night for former President Donald Trump. But to get his agenda passed, he's going to need the help of Congress. So let's take a look at the balance of power on Capitol Hill, starting with the Senate. Many were expecting fireworks when these two New Yorkers came face to face here at the White House. But that's not what happened. The two leaders took questions for over 30 minutes and were overwhelmingly positive despite months of insults.
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think this mayor can do some things that are going to be really great. He said a lot of my voters actually voted for him, and I'm okay with that.
President Donald Trump spoke almost glowingly about Zoran Mamdani, the man preparing to lead his native city of New York.
The meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers.
Turn the volume up!
The cordial meeting was a sharp departure from the hostile rhetoric of recent weeks. The president has attacked Mamdani, a democratic socialist, as a communist and extreme, while Mamdani has called the president an authoritarian leader.
And I've been called much worse than a despot.
The president deflected the criticism and even stepped in when a reporter asked Mamdani if he believed the president was a fascist.
I've spoken about...
That's okay, you can just say yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
Mamdani identifies as a democratic socialist. Among his main policies, he's pitching universal child care, a free bus system, and city-run grocery stores, planning to pay for this by raising taxes on high earners and corporations. The president was asked if he would be comfortable living in New York, with Mamdani taking control.
I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting.
Ahead of the election, the president endorsed Mamdani's opponent, Andrew Cuomo, and even threatened to withhold federal funding for the city if Mamdani won. The president appeared to back off that threat on Friday.
I expect to be helping him, not hurting him. A big help, because I want New York City to be great.
Now, despite the friendly welcome here at the White House, Republicans in general have been very critical of Mamdani, calling his policies extreme. On Capitol Hill, the Republican-led House passed a resolution on Friday, quote, denouncing the horrors of socialism. Mamdani responding from the Oval Office, saying that he's focused very little on resolutions. Reporting here at the White House, I'm Evan Koslof, Spectrum News.
It's been a long climb up the ladder of seniority. And with each passing year, I've been able to do more for the state of Maine.
Senator Susan Collins has been a fixture in Washington since she was elected to the Senate in 1996. You've seen 8 Senate majority leaders in your time, 5 presidents. Over all this time, how has Washington changed?
Washington has become more partisan over the years. I think we need to look for common ground.
Collins joined us in her new office on the first floor of the Capitol, designated for the Senate Appropriations Committee. This term, Collins became the first Republican woman to chair this powerful committee.
I come to Washington not as an enemy of government, but as one committed to improving it.
Collins is a lifelong Republican, but at times has bucked her party and its leader, President Donald Trump. Just this week, she declared that she would vote against Trump's pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
I did not find that Mr. Hegseth had the experience and perspective that was needed.
Collins says that she spoke with Trump after his inauguration and hopes to work closely with the incoming administration, despite their past differences. During Trump's second impeachment trial after the January 6th riot in 2021, Collins was one of just 7 Republicans that voted to convict him.
We're not going to always agree on issues. I don't agree with the president's pardon of violent individuals who were involved in the riot on January 6, 2021, and actually assaulted police officers.
Collins also expressed concerns with Trump's plans for wide-scale tariffs, in particular, a threatened 25% tariff against Canada, the biggest trade partner for her home state.
I'm trying to get the administration to think more thoroughly about the ramifications.
And as the chair of Appropriations, Collins will have a big impact on the budget. She says her top priorities are rural development, defense, infrastructure, and biomedical research. Reporting here on Capitol Hill, I'm Evan Koslof, Spectrum News. Across Canada, we heard a similar story.
Beer, baseball, and barbecue is a great way to spend a summer vacation.
Canadians with big plans to travel to the U.S.
Do golf trip, watch the Masters.
To spend time with friends or to see loved ones.
I would go a few times a year to visit family.
But all 3 of these Canadians say that this year will be different. Travel to the U.S. is off the table.
I told my buddies I can't travel to a country that's threatening to annex us in good conscience.
Take John DeRue from Vancouver Island.
So when I say they should be a state, I mean that.
He said it was the rhetoric from President Donald Trump about making Canada the 51st state that pushed him to pull the plug on a group trip to Phoenix.
We don't find this funny.
Same goes for Heath Graham of Saskatoon in central Canada. He had plans for a 10-day road trip ending in Austin, Texas.
Barbecue-themed trip.
But now he's trading ribs and brisket for whitewater rafting in northern Canada.
I don't think it's safe to go down there anymore.
And then there's Casey Broughton of Montreal, who identifies as transgender and is also blaming politics for why a visit to see family in Washington, D.C. won't be happening.
How is it that it took all this to get Canadians to appreciate that we have a beautiful country we should see more of?
And these 3 Canadians are part of a broader trend of Canadians canceling trips in a backlash fueled by tariffs and the fiery rhetoric coming out of the White House. Preliminary data for April from Statistics Canada shows that the number of land trips by Canadians out of the U.S. plummeted by over 35% compared to last year, while air trips dropped by nearly 20%.
We're the tourism capital of the world.
Last month, President Trump dismissed this dip in tourism and the role his rhetoric might be playing.
There's a little nationalism there, I guess, perhaps. It's not a big deal.
Meanwhile, beyond Canada, the numbers are a bit more mixed. Preliminary data from the National Travel and Tourism Office shows that international visitors from outside Canada and Mexico dropped by some 12% in March compared to the year before, but then increased in April by 8%.
These overseas travelers are absolutely critical to the American economy.
Jeff Freeman, the president of the U.S. Travel Association, says these international travelers spend roughly $180 billion in the U.S. every year, making up a fifth of the entire travel industry.
It's not too late. We can regain these travelers. The most important thing we can do, though, is send a message that we want their business.
The Golden State and Canada have always shared so much in common.
And that's what many state leaders have tried to do, unveiling ads like this one featuring California's Governor Gavin Newsom.
Or you know who's trying to stir things up back in D.C., but don't let that ruin your beach plans.
But will this messaging work on everyday Canadians?
Sorry, it's just,
At least for now, the Canadians that we spoke with say it's done little to change their minds.
It's forever changed our relationship. We wish we could go back to the U.S., but for right now, it's just sort of off the table.
In Washington, I'm Evan Koslof, Spectrum News.